everyone, and welcome to Essential Exchange. This is a talk radio show that provides information and education and stories about things that people need to hear. And we have a special guest today. Her name is English Elaine, and Elaine is an expert by experience. Like me, she is also a mental health first aid instructor. She's a creator of You Are Not Alone for Business. And she also has a couple of books out there, right, Elaine? Is it two?
I have one and the other one's in the works.
Okay, so I was a little confused when I was reading the bio. So My Crazy Summer is one that you already wrote, correct? Okay. And
Correct.
then I won't give away the title to the other one, or are you putting that
Mm-mm,
out there? Okay.
not yet.
So the other one, she has
Nope.
another book that is coming. She has over 30 years in experience in corporate organizations, which she can talk a little bit more about and tell us like what she did while in the corporate world. And she is also a two-time suicide survivor. Okay, we're not going to be able to probably get into all of that tonight because we have a short show. We only have about half an hour. But I would like Elaine to, tell us a little bit more about herself, why she calls herself, I think it's the real English Elaine, right? And there's a
Yes.
little bit about her story and her background. And then I want to welcome her back for a longer show where we can actually talk about in depth,
Mm.
you know, the fact that you are a two-time suicide survivor, because I think people really, really need to hear this, especially right now. We're coming up on the holidays. We've had a lot of people,
Mm.
just with COVID and the disconnect in the world, that really, really
Yeah.
need to hear your story. And my hope is that it resonates with somebody and it can really help a lot of people out there. So tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of where your whole journey started that kind of has got you to write this book
Wow.
and to become a mental health first aid instructor and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we have another show because I certainly can't get
It's
through
a
all of
long story, I know.
them.
This will be the short version, the spotlight.
It's okay. I will say though that this time last year, for Thanksgiving 2020, I was actually in a residential psychiatric unit. I After my second suicide attempt. And
Okay.
so actually the food was really good in the residential unit. And
You don't usually
I'd
hear
made some
that.
great friends. Well, all the food was actually like homemade, so it was great. And there was about, I don't know, 20 residents. We were called residents. I was in that residential unit for 75 days. I actually
Oh, wow.
attempted suicide on the 24th of September 2020. That was my second and final attempt. And I promise not to do any more. And my first attempt was in the summer of 2014. And so that's why my first book is actually called My Crazy Summer. And it's a
Hmm.
memoir, and it really talks about the whole tension between God and medication, and how, people, um, especially in the Christian church, are many people will say, you haven't got enough faith, or you need to pray more, you don't need to go and get medication. And yet the same people that were talking to me and sharing that with me, they actually were taking diabetes medication and blood pressure medication. So why was it okay for them and not for me? Because I had a mental issue, I had a problem with my brain. So
Hmm.
they had a problem with their blood, and that was okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah,
So it's funny
as
that
you
you bring that up because that's part of the issue, right? We know as mental health first aid instructors is the stigma, right, around it. And so if
exactly.
you have a heart issue, or if you have a diabetes issue, or you have some other organ issue, it's okay. You can go get treated. You can go see the doctor. You can go get
Totally.
medication. But mental health is not seen the same way, right? And that's something that we want to change.
Exactly. You will hear me say that my head and my body if you look at me, if you look at you, if anybody else is listening and you look at yourself, you'll see that you're connected. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's important that we actually treat the whole person. And that's what my second book is actually about, treating the whole person. Because our brain, as you say, is like any other organ in our body. And the only thing that
Mm-hmm.
makes our brain different, it's actually the only organ that cannot be transplanted. So we can basically transplant every other organ, but not our brain. So it's really important that we take care of it and we look after it. And yet it's very easy to go and get physical checkups, but it's challenging to get a mental checkup. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's so I
so
have
yeah.
a podcast that I started. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, so sometimes we might overlap each other. I started a podcast called Mind Pulse, and in the whole premise of it, it's
Mm,
just, and I have to kind of get a little more into it because people are actually saying that they like it. It's short, little, 3 minute or whatever, just little blurbs on a thought of, whatever it is that comes to me that I know people need to hear, whether it's on anxiety or it could be on suicide or depression or whatever.
yeah.
And in the Mind Pulse, the name I came up with because exactly what you just said. Like we go and get our annual checkups, right? As women, we go get
Hmm.
mammograms, right? We also go get
Hmm.
our car oil changed. We like every 5,000 miles, whatever. We do all these things regularly, but we never go check our mental health regularly, and then there really isn't anything out there to do that. So um,
Hmm.
the podcast is like, check your pulse regularly. Like, what's going on in your mind? Like, how
Hmm.
are you feeling? Because as somebody who's worked in the behavior mental health field for over 27 years, I've been depressed and I didn't even know it when I was in it. Like, how could I not
Yeah.
know? Because when you're in it, it's different. You're not looking at yourself like that, and you're not, you're just not thinking right, right? You're thinking differently.
Mhm.
I don't know. You're trying to survive. I think you're in survival mode, right? So, and then when
Exactly.
somebody else doesn't talk to you about it or point things out to you, right? You don't
Hmm.
know. And this is again something that we teach in mental health first aid is how to recognize signs and symptoms and how
Hmm.
to feel comfortable and confident talking to somebody about it because they might need you to help pull them out of it, right? Do you agree with
Exactly.
that? Lauren?
Yeah, I remember the first time that I went to see a counselor, and I was not feeling right, and she told me, she said, "I think you're depressed." And I was like, "Absolutely not. There's no way that I'm depressed. There's no way." Like, I didn't want to have that label. And then a few years later, I went to see a therapist, and she said that I was depressed. And I accepted it then. I was just like, and she was very much, telling me, like, you would have a broken bone and get that seen too. You have a broken
Mhm.
brain and you need to get that seen too. And so after a lot of fighting, I actually went to see a psychiatrist the first
Mhm.
time. But as you said, I worked in corporate America for 30 odd years. So as a working professional, it's very stressful. And I can only
Mhm.
imagine with COVID how much more stressful it's become, especially, as people are now working a lot more from home, which means that if they've not got any family with them, then they're isolated. And isolation is one of the worst things that you can do if you are not feeling well mentally.
Mhm.
Because you just end up going spiraling down and you end up in that deepest, darkest place where you feel like the only choice you have is to kill yourself, which is, I will say, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So,
Mhm.
but
But in
being
that
in
moment,
corporate America,
though, in that
sorry, go
moment
on.
though, right, the permanent solution to a temporary problem, but in that moment, you as a survivor, I would imagine, like, because I remember just being depressed too, and just like, ugh, like just being so overwhelmed, like you don't feel like it's temporary, right? You're like, this isn't going to
Oh,
end,
yeah.
it's not going to get better, and so you're very desperate, and you just
Hmm.
want it to end. And I want to say, and again, I can't speak because I have never had like suicidal thoughts or any intentions, but you say like, I just want this to end. It doesn't necessarily mean that you want your life to end. You want the situation to end so that you're not stressed and depressed or overwhelmed by it. Is that accurate?
Oh, totally. Yes. I mean, you'll hear, I've read lots, I've done lots of research because I stepped out of corporate America and I'm focused 100% on mental health advocacy. And, you know, people like me who have attempted suicide, we actually don't want to die. We just don't know how to live anymore. It's like it's like this is the only thing that we have control over. This is the only thing that we can do. So it's like,
Mhm.
why not? It's like because you just don't know what else to do. Um and
Yeah.
in
You don't
my
have a better
second
solution,
attempt,
right?
yeah, I mean, you've tried everything and your mind is so messed up because the chemical imbalance is so bad. Um,
Hmm.
and you've spiraled to a place where you feel like there's no hope, and you're in a place where you feel like you are the only one that feels like
Hmm.
this. And we know, as a mental health first aider, like you, first aid instructor, we know that 1 in 5 Americans
Yeah.
suffer with a mental condition. Or I shouldn't
Hmm.
say suffer. It feels like you're suffering, but you're living with a mental condition. And I know that the statistics coming in from COVID are showing that more and more people are living with a mental condition. And when I say a mental condition, like I don't mean like when you say that, I think because of the stigma, some people think of like schizophrenia and all those
That
kinds
was
of
the first thing I
conditions.
thought of when you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you really think about anybody that's anxious, anybody that is
Hmm.
feeling overwhelmed, if you have that feeling for more than 2 weeks, so only 2 weeks, but if you've had that feeling and you feel like it's really impacting the way that you live, and the way that you interact with people and the way that you love, the way that you learn, if it's impacting like just your daily business, then you've got a problem. And
Hmm.
that's the time to seek help. And so, given that, more than 30 million people in America have a mental health condition, there's lots of help out there, even like just going to your doctor, just because many times you don't need medication. Many
Hmm.
times you just might need to go and see a therapist and like
Hmm.
talk it through. And that's all that you might need. So I think one of the things also that people fear is the medication.
Hmm.
And I think that's because that's attached to the stigma. So,
Yes.
but yeah, why is it okay to have diabetes? I mean, I actually
Hmm.
have hypothyroidism, so I take thyroid medication. And I'm okay saying I take thyroid medication, and I'm okay now saying I take depression medication. I was diagnosed and I live with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And so I
Hmm.
take medication for that. But one of the things that I learned, which I wasn't told of, first of all, is that when you take medication, it's not like taking, ibuprofen and your headache goes away in 24 hours. It takes like 6 to 8 weeks to kick in because your body's
Hmm.
got to, like your mind and your brain has got to work with all those chemicals. So it has to happen over a period of time. And so
Hmm.
if you're any of the listeners are out there and they have started to take medication for mental conditions and they feel like it's not working, I would say give it time because it has
Hmm.
to take time. So don't give up because it really does work. And I know, unfortunately, um, that for some people they have to try different medications based
Hmm.
on just their body chemistry. Um, but don't give up because it's really important that you do take
Hmm.
medication if needed. A big
Yeah.
disclaimer: I'm not a doctor. I'm not a like a medical professional.
So
I'm
let's
just
let's
sharing
even take
my
let's let's even take it outside of the medication realm and talk about other things that you can do, right? So exercise is one of the first things that
Absolutely.
they say. Exercise, it will help change the chemicals in your brain, right? And get you into a better place. Eating also
Yeah.
can help. So when you were talking
Yeah.
about everything's connected, it is all connected. What you eat can affect how you feel about yourself,
Absolutely.
which can, cause you to get depressed, right? If you start to feel frumpy and tired and overweight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But even talking about mindfulness and meditation instead of medication, or a combination of whatever. If you start to exercise,
Exactly.
same thing. You're not going to see results overnight, right? It's going to take time.
Exactly.
Even if you meditate,
Yeah.
you have to train your brain to slow down, to, if you're doing breath work,
Exactly.
to do the breath work. And all of that
Hmm.
changes your brain. Um,
Exactly.
I want to say like physically and chemically, right? So it's
No,
like
it
building your
does.
muscles when you go to the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been fortunate now that I spend all my time in this area. So I do a lot of researching and I do a lot of reading, and I'm learning a lot about the brain gut connection and the vagus
Mhm.
nerve. And I think a
Yes,
lot
I've
of
been hearing about that.
people, yeah, so I think a lot of people don't actually know that most of your serotonin and most of your immune system is actually in your
Mhm.
gut. It's not in your
Yes.
brain, it's not in your head, it's
Yeah.
in your stomach area. And
And I
so,
didn't
yeah,
know
you're
that
right.
either. I've been doing, I think the woman that I've been doing breath work with, who is doing it in my Essential Embrace group, um, I think she's the one who said that. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, most
Mhm.
of your serotonin is in your belly. And, when you're breathing, it somehow transforms and
Exactly.
changes it. And when we
Yeah,
talk about serotonin, what does everybody think? Your brain, because
yeah,
that's the only thing that you ever
exactly,
hear. So education,
exactly.
right, is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole like breathing from your diaphragm because you're breathing from your
Hmm.
belly, right? So that's why it's really important. So you're right. I mean, we are all connected. And so the
Hmm.
fact that you have to look at the whole person, which is really what my next book is all about. It's educating people. It's actually talking about my second suicide attempt because I could not believe that I would even have attempted once. So to have attempted twice was truly unbelievable. And I'm a person of faith, and I believe that was God just like telling me, hey, I want you to spend your time on mental health advocacy. And He gave me a powerful
Hmm.
story. And I really do want to use my story to give people hope so that they see that recovery is possible. Um,
Hmm.
and it's really important to have a purpose. So it's important to have a
Hmm.
purpose. But going back to the whole like connection, so it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's important that
Yes.
we make sure we eat right because
Hmm.
the old saying "we are what we eat" is very true. So just a little snippet is the whole attention to how much sugar people eat. So any men watching this, if your limit is 49 grams of sugar a day. And for any women, your limit is 29 grams of sugar a day. Now, the other day I
Yeah.
went out and I was in the dollar store and I was like, "Oh, I just feel like a Snicker bar." So I went and got a Snicker bar and I looked at how much sugar was in it and I was like, "Crap. It's 28 grams of sugar in a Snicker bar." I was like, "Dang."
Mhm.
I was like, "Ah." But
So
it's okay.
interesting
I
with
don't do that
with
every day.
but interesting with sugar, right? Like I've always said, I don't have an addictive personality. Um, People in my family, definitely, people that have been in my life, and even my own children, right? They have all had
Mhm.
issues with one type of addiction or another. And then I learned along the way that gambling is also an addiction, and hoarding is an addiction, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't.
Shopping.
I could pick up a cigarette and smoke it, and then be like, Psh, and I don't care. I don't want it. I don't. Medication, all
Yeah.
that stuff. But what I realized is, oh, I am addicted to sugar, because if I have it,
Mhm.
I want more and more and more. My brain just like must crave it, right? But if I do,
Mhm.
like, say I used to do the Atkins diet. when I would do that,
Mm.
you could like put a whole spread out in front of me of desserts and whatever, and I would look at it and go, oh my god, that looks so delicious, but didn't have any desire to eat it. And that's when
Mm.
I realized the
Mhm.
difference of, yeah, you're addicted, because when I'm, say I went and got a Snickers bar, right, and then I go to work,
Mhm.
all day at work I would be
Mhm.
thinking, oh, I want to stop and get ice cream on the way home, or oh, I want to make cookies or something when I get home. Like it would
Exactly.
just consume me,
Yeah,
and I didn't even realize it. So
exactly. Yeah, so
we only have a few minutes left, but like I said,
okay.
I really
Mhm.
do want to have you back either next week or sometime
Yeah,
really soon, because
next week.
if you don't mind, I would
Mhm.
like for you to share your actual stories of more in depth, like what happened, what brought you to that, what did you do, how did you attempt, and how did you get through that? Because I think it's really important for people to hear who are maybe kind of in a desperate situation right now, who are feeling hopeless, who have been there before. So in between yours was what was it, 7 years in
Almost
between the
7,
two?
yeah, 6 years.
Yeah.
2014 and then 2020, 6 years, just over
Yeah,
6 years. Mhm.
and I'm imagining that because you didn't take care of your mental health in between, you probably thought, I'm good, I'm fine, it's not going to happen again, you know, and then
Mhm.
realized when it did, like, oh shit, like, how did that
Mhm.
happen? But I'm sure you could look back and
Mhm.
go, okay, well, I mean, or there, I should have, that was a warning sign. Maybe that was a this, that was a that. So
Mhm.
talking about that so that other people, you know, know that it don't talk yourself out of it and tell yourself like, oh, that's just me being whatever. It's
Oh, yeah.
pay attention
Oh,
and
totally.
do something
Yeah,
about it.
absolutely. Because I mean, as I said, I never thought that I would attempt once, never mind twice, and so I'd be more than
Right.
happy to share with you more in depth about that. And I also want to share again to any listeners out there, anybody watching, that if you feel like you've not been able to cope with life for more than 2 weeks, then please go and get help. It's okay. Like, you're not alone. It's like
Mhm.
people are talking about mental health now, so there's no
Thank
shame
God.
associated. It's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. The only
Yeah.
good thing out of COVID, right?
What good things have come out of COVID, I think, and I think I recognize a lot of them, and I think certain people did, but not everybody. But we're gonna bring all that to light. So, and you talked about the Christian thing, right? I actually struggle with that a lot because I don't like medication for lots of reasons. One, that all my family did nothing but take all kinds of pills and things like that. So I kind of always just didn't I didn't want any part of
Yeah,
that. And I have struggled many times with, well, you're supposed to have faith and you're supposed to believe. And, even like right now, I don't have income because I don't have a job because of the vaccination, right?
mhm,
And I'm just sitting back and believing that, what I'm doing right here, right now, and the people that I'm meeting and I'm connecting with and the things that are happening
exactly,
is God working, right? And I do
totally.
have faith and know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
But like with the medication thing and everything else, yeah, you go back and forth. Like, am I supposed to be doing something? Am I supposed to just have faith and pray? I feel like the answer is both, right? A little
it
bit of
is,
both.
and I have a great
Yeah.
story that I will share next time with you about that.
Yes, awesome. So tell us
Yeah.
how to find you, maybe how to find your book, or if you have like a website or something
Cool.
that you want to direct people to.
Yeah, I have a website, and so my website is obviously www. It's the real English Elaine.com. So real REAL English ENGLISH Elaine ELAINE.com. The real English Elaine.com, because
Why
I'm
do you call
from
yourself that?
England.
Okay, so
Well, I'm from
that's the
England,
story behind the name.
and then I also I am real, right? So part of my recovery is saying, this is who I am. I'm not trying to be anybody else. I'm just being authentic and I'm being real. And you might like it and you might not. And that's okay. I'm fully confident in myself and who I am now, that I'm just like, hey, if you like me, great. And if you don't, that's not my problem. It's yours. Um,
Yeah. Well,
but it's
nobody's for
kind of
everybody,
like,
right, Elaine? No, nobody's for
Exactly. And you know
everybody,
what?
right?
Exactly. And in when I was in corporate America, I was a lot of people have come out and shared with me their stories since I've been more open and transparent. And when you're in the corporate world, a lot of times you're trying to be somebody who you're not. You're trying to like live up to some false expectation of what you need to look like and act like and talk like when you're in corporate America. Um, and that's so stressful trying to be somebody who you're not, trying to wear that
Yeah.
mask of, oh, I'm going to be this person at work and then this person at
Mhm.
home. And so that's what the
Yeah.
real is all about.
Nice. I like it.
I
I
am who
like
I
it.
am.
Well, thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you so much for coming. And like I said, it
You're
was a
welcome.
short show, but this is good because people got to hear a little bit of your story, and hopefully that will entice them to come back and hear your real story in depth. I know I am excited
Mhm.
and I can't wait to hear it. So we'll talk about that when we get off air. But for everybody out there, thank you for coming and listening. And this is live stream, but it will also be, posted elsewhere for other people to see. And we hope to see you all again next week. Take care.
Thank you.